Coach Wiggins, can you talk about what the transition was like for you to go from wide receiver coach to offensive coordinator? Something in your mind, I assume, throughout the years you probably were mentally preparing for, but that actual step and thinking from one position group to the entire offense?
Yeah, I think in any facet of any organization and program, like when you're sitting there starting from the bottom, you think about ways to kind of, start at the entry level, working your way up, and how that looks, just as far as, let's say, management. And that's what I've been working towards. I've earned the evolution of a coach, starting as a student assistant to a GA, right, to a position coach, to a co-coordinator, and now a coordinator. So being able to see it through a different lens, get not necessarily a back view, but a better sight line into kind of how things work and what we want it to look like. So I've enjoyed my journey. It's my story, and I'm super excited about this opportunity.
Holman, obviously in your previous job you had some amazing groups of receivers.
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking for comparisons or anything like that, but as someone that knows what a great receiver room looks like, what does this receiver room look like?
Well, they say comparison's the thief of joy. The one thing that I do like, we have a group that works their tail off. I think all of them have, a ton of ability. And the biggest thing when we talk about recruiting, right, you're trying to make, a basketball team or what we call the Avengers, right? Like every one of them brings like a different character and skill set, just as far as being able to attack the ball, play the ball, speed, drop their weight. But I think as a collective, they all do some great things on the field that opens up kind of what we're trying to do offensively.
Anybody in particular you look at and say, this guy's really made a move since last year or 2 guys, right?
Yeah, I think when you sit there and talk about kind of that group, of course, a lot of people have recognized Terry Bussey just in the facet of him kind of having time on job, us using him in a bunch of different capacities. He's a smart, tough, unselfish, dependable player that we can line up in a few different spots, and he gives us the ability to sit there and put the ball in his hands, play without the ball, which I've been, super intrigued about him. Mario Craver has been lightning in a bottle, looking for him to continue to stack days and kind of be a little more balanced in kind of what we're doing. He has this uncanny ability to color outside the lines, so trying to give him, a few guardrails just in that aspect. Ashton Bethel-Roman, you see him averaging 21 yards a catch a year ago, and now starting to figure it out and not just being just a vertical stretch guy. We're doing some different things in the run game with him. He's able to kind of now run some of the intermediate routes a whole lot cleaner than what he did a year ago. Of course, Isaiah Horton has been, kind of the big name that everybody's kind of tossed around. Big receiver, big catch radius, really good ability to track the ball, getting him more consistent with attacking it, and he had a pretty decent day out there today. And then you also have some of those other guys as far as TK Norman, Kelshawn Johnson, the freshman crew that has come in. But I think as we continue to build, like that room's going to be, pretty prolific in this offense.
You had to learn about your offense from the first scrimmage.
We got to be consistent, right? When you sit there and talk about what I learned from those guys, like the biggest focus that we've had is, turnovers, penalties, and being able to run the ball consistently. And we're still not where we need to be, right? The standard's going to be that. That standard is excellence. So we got a chance to, sit there and peel back the curtain a little bit, kind of show our guys. And we talk about having two mentalities, right? A mirror mentality or a window mentality. And we want to look in the mirror and see here's where we're at and here's what we need to get better at. So that's what we're working on for the rest of this fall camp.
To that point, just what were maybe some things that really pleased you about the way y'all played on in that scrimmage then?
Yeah, I love the fact of the way those guys approached it. I think the sun kind of zapped us a little bit, right? So our championship strain and our competitive stamina wasn't anywhere close to where it should be, but there were plays made. But also, right, we negated a ton of those plays with, false starts or holdings or any of those things from that nature. So I want to get to the point, or we want to get to the point where we can go in there and put on the tape and say, here's where we are, not if we would have did this, we would have, here's the result, right? So we got to make sure that we continue to be process-driven and outcome-oriented, and make sure that we continue to put the right things in place so we can have that championship execution that we're looking for.
You talk about running the football, penalties, and turnovers. If you guys can clean up those 3 areas, what do you think this offense is capable of?
Well, I think sky's the limit when you're talking about kind of what this offense can do if we continue to kind of clean those things up, right? And that's kind of the tail of the season, too. When you look at our last couple games, right, whether it be Texas, whether it be Miami, if we're able to take care of the ball and run the ball consistently, it's probably a totally different outcome, right? But that's kind of what we're talking about as we pop on the film. We can, all these ifs and buts, like let's get to it to where we actually have the opportunity to do it. So we're trying to build these championship habits so we can have the elite outcomes.
You talk about last year just how productive you were in the wide receiver room, bringing in a guy like Isaiah Horton, which a body type you guys didn't have.
Yes.
Schematically, how much does it have a guy like that who can make plays, catch radius like that, change what you can do schematically?
I think it changes a little bit of everything that you can do, right? It brings a little more confidence in the quarterback to feel like, hey, you know what, I'm not throwing it to a smaller target, right? So I can put the ball in place and give a guy a chance and see if that guy can run under it or will attack the ball. KC did a phenomenal job for us. Bussy, Ashton Bethel-Roman, as well as Mario did a phenomenal job for us, right? But they didn't have that size and that speed. So now that kind of just brings a different element to what we're trying to do offensively.
Marcelo told us last week he had been doing well protecting the football, limiting turnovers in practice. Just, how's that played out this last week since we've talked to him last, and just maybe what are the things that he's doing that's allowed him to be cleaner in his game?
I think for him, like, he's putting the time in, right? And that's with everything, right? The confidence and comfort for him comes with, time on task, but also going there and meeting with Coach Lynch and actually seeing and knowing exactly kind of what I'm doing. Here's what I'm doing, how I'm supposed to do it, and why I'm doing it. So the great thing, when I get a chance to talk to him on the sideline, he comes off and he knows why this broke down, why he didn't do something, right? And that's, probably hadn't been the case, a year ago, right? So that's super exciting to see. There's, a bunch of more poise in the pocket, like him understanding how to go through his reads. He has a really good knack and a really great ability to scramble kind of with the ball in his hands, but us trying to sit there and tell him, like, well, what we're doing and how we take care of the ball, our job is to not put the ball in jeopardy. And Coach Elko is doing a phenomenal job of throwing some different situations at our guys, right? So knowing, okay, here's 2 minutes, right? Tomorrow we're going to work on 4 minutes. Yesterday we worked on some overtime situations. So being aware of the sticks, aware of those situations, what can we do? We can't take sacks. We're trying to score. So just putting our guys in the right headspace. So as we get to those moments, right, like, we know how to rise to the occasion and not fall to, the outcome.
Mike just mentioned a few minutes ago about how it's hard to kind of tell where the offensive line is to get against SEC competition.
Yes.
In the same vein, is there indicators to show where the run game is, or is that something that kind of has lagging indicators as we progress to shells to full pass?
Yeah, I think there's always key points when you talk about what we're doing in the run game. And for us, like, it's, ownership kind of throughout kind of the offense, right? So it's not just, on the 5 or 6 guys up front. It's on our guys in the perimeter. We got to do a great job of getting in our splits, putting hands on places, and making sure, right, we're leaving one less defender for the running back to run off of. And also we're doing some stuff where we're actually handing the ball off to the receivers. But, we want to be able to see the line of scrimmage move, right? So with that comes, focus, guys taking the right steps, right, coming out of the hips, unlocking those, moving, in space at the second level. And I think our guys are really trying to take onus in that, right? So you get a chance to see day by day those guys kind of taking some things kind of to the defensive side, but also trying to apply what we're trying to ask those guys to do.
Does it feel like it's on schedule?
Yes, sir.
Nick Saban fall camp and Mike Elko fall camp. Where do their styles maybe converge a little bit? How are they different?
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, and Nick Saban fall camp and Mike Elko fall camp. Just wondering, are there any overlaps you see in terms of style, or maybe how are they a little bit different?
Yeah, I think with great coaches there always is kind of parallels and overlap, right? Like, with Coach Saban and as well with, Coach Elko, right? There's no destination disease, right? A lot of people can talk about how successful we were a year ago or what this place has been, and for him, like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. He's like, hey, you know what? We're nowhere close to where we should be. So now how can we sit there and get these things moving forward, right, to monopolize or maximize the ability that we have in that room and maximize this team?
Losing some guys and then also some new faces on the offensive side, where do you think these guys are gelling together best out on the field?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job of gelling both, right, on the field and off the field. And that's one of the biggest things when you talk about, in today's, era of college football, right? You're getting, incoming freshmen that graduated early, you're getting transfer portal guys, and also you got your, current team that you're just trying to merge and mash these, different personalities together for one common goal. So we're doing a ton of things outside of it. Of course, we're in fall camp, but we've done some paintballing, we've done some dinner pods. Like, you're just trying to build those relationships with our guys, because I feel like, it's hard to tell somebody what to do if they don't trust the fact that you actually care for them. And now with those guys being in the foxhole, we get a chance to be out there on the football field. Now you see a lot of those personalities and chemistry, and those chemistry things kind of take place, right? A year ago, I don't think anybody would see Mario Craver kind of encouraging the rest of his teammates to come out here and attack the heat and kind of do some of these things, right? A year ago, you probably wouldn't see, Marcel Reed trying to hold the offense accountable, right? And I think now, like, our guys are open and vulnerable to listening because they feel like, hey, you know what? Like, we're a team and we're trying to come together and we're doing this all for the right reasons.
Looking at the tight end room, just how have they been developing through the camp, and just how important are they going to be for the passing attack?
Yeah, I think, they're going to be important in the whole offense, right, whether run or pass. So I feel like the tight end room has done a really good job coming in and, kind of bringing their hard hat every day. It's led by Mike O'Reilly, who, is one of our captains. I think he has, the right mindset. He has, the right championship kind of, intangibles that we talk about just as far as this program. And I think a lot of those other guys have kind of followed suit. Richie Anderson, is a little bit of, an old school kind of football guy, will get his nose dirty, can, mix it up in a run game, but also shown us some different things in the pass game. We brought in, Houston Thomas, from UTSA, and he's more of the pass catcher, but he's put on some weight to kind of help him, sit there and sustain some of these, matchups kind of in the SEC. And I've been, excited to kind of see him come along in the run game as well. So, as a group, and Keati Armstrong made a really good catch yesterday, just as far as our pass game stuff. We ended up praising him about that, trying to get him to be a little more consistent in the run game, which I think he's starting to kind of, listen to those things and unlock his hips and be the big player that he can be. If we can get him to play as good as he looks, I think, that room will continue to climb, right, and play even a bigger role in what we're trying to do offensively.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.